Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds, and today I'm hanging out with another Grognard. I got the Bill Allan. So what's
Hey,
going on, Bill?
well, man, it's hard to swallow that title, but my older brother started teaching me
The Bill
D&D.
Allan. Uh-oh, I'm getting. So what's going on, Bill?
We got a delay. It's hard to swallow that title, but I have a solution for that delay. Hold on.
Let's see. That thing was on my end, and we lost the Bill Allan temporarily.
Nah, I'm still here.
It was on my end. I had another window open somewhere I didn't even realize. Story of my life.
Okay. No delay anymore?
No, yeah, we're good.
All
so right. We initially have been bumping into each other in the internet, thanks to Taking 20 Cody. I think he's put a lot of different creators in touch with each other with a group that he put together for content creators. And then at GenCon, we actually got to meet.
Yes.
In person, which was really cool.
Yeah. It was awesome. You know, like you said, all these guys, you, Cody, Ted, now I'm drawing blanks. Oh, Juice. I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy. And running into everybody in real life and everybody just being down to earth, cool, normal people. Even the big celebrities that we partied with were awesome.
Yeah. It's at the end of the day, when you start, getting to hang out with these people, everyone is just a gamer. So that's like the underlying thread that's kind of really cool about the industry and the niche. So I guess one of the things I definitely wanted you to maybe share with everyone was your Gen Con experience, because you have a little bit of a different background, and you made some inroads from pre-Gen Con that got you into Gen Con, got you the ability to do some really cool things while you were there, and actually help out some young people at the same time.
Yeah, well, so the story actually starts last April 2017 at the National Association of Broadcasters Conference, which is held in Las Vegas every year. This is the biggest event in the world for film and television. So I started taking groups of my students in my video classes, kind of like the leadership, the more advanced students, back in 2011. So the 2017 show that we went to, I had 5 kids, and we went to an industry networking event held by Shane Hurlbut. He's kind of like the DSLR filmmaking guru. And it was at a bar in the Cosmopolitan. So my high school students couldn't go in the bar. They're standing on the perimeter, kind of like, looking bored. And I thought it was going to be a bust. And I'm like, yeah, I guess we should probably just split and go back to the hotel. Well, next thing I know, all these pros are coming up to my kids and they're going, hey, what college are you guys at? What university? And my kids are like, oh, we're actually from a high school, outside of Chicago. And these pros were blown away by the fact that these kids were at the big industry conference and they were high school kids. So that was a big, the next thing I know, they're handing out business cards with each other. They're networking. We had a big, group picture with Shane, and they were doing a raffle. And one of the biggest companies in the world for film and television is a company called Blackmagic Design. And there was a guy from Blackmagic Design there who was raffling off free equipment for Shane's get-together. He saw my student Sean wearing this Operation Ivy t-shirt, this vintage t-shirt, and he's like, oh my God, that's one of my favorite bands. What college are you from? And it was the same thing, I'm from a high school. Then when he hears that, he's like talking with him, he's like blown away by it. And he's like, listen, I want you guys to come meet me at the client relations booth at Blackmagic on Wednesday at noon. So it turns out this guy is Terry Frechette, the director of corporate communications for Blackmagic Design. So, I mean, I don't even know how to make a compare. It would be like if you were into football and you were a kid who likes to run cameras for sports and you had an opportunity to work with the NFL. Like, it's a big deal. So we meet with the guy. He's awesome. He's down to earth. He loves our program. he's like, I want to sponsor your festival. I want you guys to beta test our equipment. I want you to be a pilot school and showcase what you could do with our stuff. It was just awesome, right?
Hold on 1 second, Bill. You just used a sports ball analogy to explain something that people might not understand.
Okay, I'll put it in nerd terms. It was like if Gary Gygax were still alive and he's like, hey, you want to come play at my table? I mean, it was the big.
There you go.
It was big, okay? And I'll tell you, the guy meant what he said. I had follow-up calls with him. We were making plans for sponsorship for the festival. All this good stuff, you know, nothing but supportive stuff for the educational outreach side for this guy and the company. Well, in July, I'm on the phone with him, and we're winding up our call, and he says, oh, hey, by the way, do you know anybody in Indiana, any high schools in Indiana that might be available to send some kids to work crew for the thing that we have going on? And I'm like, you know, what are the dates? Where is it? Well, he's like, it's this, it's a thing called GenCon. And I'm like, Terry, I've been playing D&D for almost 40 years. I'm like, I got a tattoo of the D&D logo on my arm. I know what GenCon is. So he tells me, and then he's like, it's a real up-and-coming group, Satine Phoenix and Rudy. I'm like, I know who they are. You know, I'm like flipping out. And I go, give me 24 hours. So I talked to my administration at the high school. And I tell them, I go, look, we just got invited by the biggest company in the world for film and television equipment to work crew on a live stream at the biggest gaming convention in the world, or at least in our country. And I made like the NFL analogy. And I told them, this is a huge opportunity for, you know, to network, to work for this company, to work on this live stream. They're going to buy our badges, 4-day badges. So we have total access all weekend long. Huge opportunity. I'm very lucky to work at a high school that supports that. So I talked to all the bosses. They all signed off on it. They thought it was a great idea. And it turned out to be amazing, right? So we get there Wednesday night before GenCon starts. We meet up with the Black Magic people. We meet up with Rudy and Satine. We go scout the location. We figure out our plan. We unpack all the equipment and get it ready. The next morning, we're up at the ass crack of dawn. We're crewing it. We're setting it up. It's, you know, and anybody who wants to see this stuff, obviously, you could go to my channel, my YouTube channel. I posted a behind the scenes. And it was like 3 hours of setup behind the scenes. So a massive undertaking. And then we did it. And you were there. You were in the game. So you saw all the behind the scenes stuff. But I mean, it was there was more than we even expected, because Ben Looms from Sirenscape shows up, and he's like the master live composer, for the soundtrack. So I'm like on the soundboard. I took turns with my students on the soundboard, and we're like syncing up with Ben and kind of bringing in the audio effects and the music beds for the dramatic moments during the game. You know, my other guys, Sean and Dave, are on camera, and Jason from Black Magic is directing, and then he let us take turns directing. So that whole experience was awesome for my kids. It was fun for me. And that was supposed to be it. And then the rest of the weekend, I was just going to have the kids kind of shoot some highlight videos of the convention and, you know, turn that into kind of a recap video for their demo reels. Well, we ended up being buddy-buddy with Jason and Satine and Rudy, and we ended up following them along, like the whole weekend. We basically became like the video crew for Maze Arcana. So, you know, we ended up the Geek and Sundry party. We ended up running the meet and greet. We, you know, just everything. It turned into this amazing thing. And we walked out after 4 days of having a blast and doing all this awesome video with a ton of great content and a couple raffle wins from Black Magic. So we have a ATEM 1ME 4K switcher and a Black Magic 4K micro studio camera. So literally, we came back with more prizes in value than it cost us to go there. So it was a total win.
I just heard 4K camera.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and we already have invested here in the studio. So we have 3 of their 4K studio cameras. And and I really like how their stuff works.
Sure, just rub it in. You're like, we didn't even need it. We just
yeah. Well, I mean, we didn't, but now I'm employing it because, you know, we also got some inspiration. The kids got to see, you know, so many cool things happening, and so now we're producing game content in association with some other people here, and we are talking about planning our own little con, our own little version of kind of a con experience at the high school in February, where we're going to have cosplay and costume contests. We're going to have 20 tables for gaming, board gaming, role-playing games, card games, all that stuff. We're going to have vendors, you know, kind of live music. We're going to have like social hangout hour, you know, that kind of stuff, food, all that, prizes. So it's going to be pretty cool. But that kind of was another inspiration that my students and I got from going to GenCon, was just to kind of have a fun, like the nickname for our con that when I proposed it to our director of student activities was, I told him, I'm like, I want to have a nerd rave. I want to have like a 24-hour nonstop gaming, anime, sci-fi, you know, cosplay party at the high school. And he's like, that's awesome. So I am blessed, fortunate, and lucky to have the job that I have, because, you know, good ideas sometimes get blocked by people who don't have a willingness to see the opportunity. But fortunately, where I'm at, they see how cool these opportunities are for these students.
So are you guys doing the 24 hours?
Yeah, and I think we're going to stream it too, because that's what we do is video. So why not, you know, why not have this con and then literally have a live stream of it, a 24-hour multicam HD live stream. So we're going to have a wireless camera running around at all the different tables, and then we're going to have cameras all over the building. It's a big open space. We're going to have cameras all over the building. We'll have bands in between, live bands and DJs performing, you know, shoot the cosplay contest and the awards ceremony, shoot the tournament games, you know, just have kind of a different thing happening, kind of jumping around, almost like shooting the Olympics. So, and hopefully we'll have that Blackmagic switcher, which will give us 10 cameras to choose from to cover everything. So,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So will that be like a fundraiser for the school?
Yes. So nominal fee, you know, it'll be open to the public, but it'll be like, you know, $5 or $10 a head, and or per day, you know. So if we start at Saturday morning, we go into Sunday night, you know, you could buy a 2-day pass or a 1-day pass, and all the proceeds would be split between the different clubs that are involved, because we have a board game club here at the high school. We have a sci-fi and anime club. We have a tech club. We have my club, which is LTTV. So we have all these different clubs that would partner up on this. Oh, and we have a business management club. So they would do the concessions. So it's a fundraiser, and it's also just fun. It's kind of a fun niche. There are 4,000 kids at this high school, and there are so many different clubs and sports. But, you know, there's not a lot of opportunities for them to embrace the geek, you know. And there are great game stores and comic book stores around that we're hoping to partner with and have sponsorship with. One of my buddies has his own company called Initiative Coffee Company. You probably saw me pimping it out on the webs. Basically, his concept is it's a mobile coffee service that provides gaming. So he goes to different places with his coffee cart and a van full of games, and he hosts game nights at different venues, at bars, restaurants, wherever. Farmers markets, that kind of stuff. And then he also sells coffee, subscription coffee. So he's actually partnered up with this too. So the kids will be, you know, having 24 hours of cold brew and hot brew coffee too, to keep them juiced.
So Comic Book University's got some questions. He says, just coming in, this sounds great. Is there a joust? I always wanted the joust. And he also wants to know, what about comic book stores?
So there are quite a few comic book stores in the Chicago area. We're going to try to invite, we don't want it to be overwhelming with the vendors, but we want to have enough vendors to kind of give it that like micro-con kind of feel. So we're talking about having 10 full-sized booths and then 10 more like table-sized arrangements. So we hope to get vendors that are doing comics and coming in. We hope to have gaming vendors. In fact, Initiative Coffee is actually a Chessex reseller, so he's going to have a whole bunch of maps and dice and Chessex gear to sell. And the cool thing is that every vendor that buys in, because our buy-in is so cheap for the vendors, every vendor is going to offer a raffle. So when you buy something from their table, it could be like literally a single die that gets you a ticket to the raffle. So then all the kids win, like, you know, they win something for coming to this. And it's open to the public too. So when I say kids, it's actually anybody who buys it.
Nice. It sounds great. When you guys get that firmed up, let me know. We'll I'll get the word out.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. It's just, you know, I grew up playing games like you in a time when, I mean, I remember there being a lot of stigma to it. When I was a little kid, it was fun. And like, I remember this golden era in 3rd and 4th grade when like everybody was playing D&D, and then it became like nerdy and taboo. And you know, it was just me and my core group of geek friends that still played, but it was almost like in the closet. Like it was like, I would never have admitted to any girl in high school that I played D&D. Like, I don't even know if my high school girlfriends back then even knew that I played D&D. It was totally closeted. And it wasn't until college where it was like, you know, it didn't even matter anymore. But,
so Andrew Armstrong says hi. Hey, Andrew.
Hey.
He's in the chat. Nah, dude, I totally feel you. Like, I'm impressed that there was even a period where you're saying everyone played D&D. You know, as far as I know, like the first rule of D&D was always we don't talk about D&D.
Yeah.
We came up with code names for playing D&D. We used to call it rocking out. You were gonna rock out Saturday night? Yeah, we'll rock out.
Yeah.
And that was playing, you know, rolling funny shaped dice.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, in high school, you always had like the different cliques, and we were like the metalheads.
Yep.
You know? And
you wouldn't know by my lack of hair, man, but I used to be a long hair.
But so there was like some of us metalheads, and actually some jocks that would game with us. But it was just it was just a small group, and you know, it was generally one of those things that you just didn't talk about.
It's funny you mentioned that, because in college, one of my good friends who, you know, we ended up going to college together for a couple of years, and we were at a party one night at his apartment, and his roommate went to high school with us, and he was a jock, and we got to talking, and somehow D&D came up, and we talked for like an hour about game stuff, and at the end of it, he's like, Bill, how the hell did I not know that you played D&D, man? He's like, it's unbelievable. I'm like, dude, because you were into sports, and that wasn't my scene, you know. And I was I hung out with metalheads and stoners, and you know, and geeks like that. But it's funny because it's amazing how many different people I've run into throughout the years, who I find out are gamers, and some of them you'd never suspect, not in a million years. They'd walk past you on the street, you'd never suspect.
It's like what was that movie? Crap, I can't think of the movie. With Roddy Piper. They live.
Oh yeah,
they live.
Yeah. You got to put on the sunglasses to see them.
Yeah. To see the gamer, the D20 appear.
Well, and even here, it's funny because, you know, and I mentioned that Nerd Rave, you know, little con that we want to do. So the director of activities used to play. He used to play a ton of D&D, and then I find out that one of the tech guys is a big gamer, and actually, you know, and the guy who runs the Corral and Initiative Coffee is a gamer, and so all these guys that I've been working with for years, it's just like they're coming out of the woodwork. One of the science teachers I found out the other day, he used to be a huge gamer, you know, and a lot of them are used to be's. They don't play anymore because they, you know, their friends don't live close or whatever, or they stop playing. But every once in a while, you know, I run into these guys, and I'm like, dude, anytime you want to play, hit me up. I'm like, I'll have anybody at my table. I love, you know, especially if you haven't played in a while, that makes it more fun. It's like, you know, re-indoctrinating them into the game.
That is literally one of the best things about doing Nerdarchy is how many times we hear, like, you know, we're the reason that they decided to go back to gaming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so, you know, we like, I feel like we fill this like important role of being out there and saying, you know what, it's okay to be an old dude and still game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I can say, you know, I'll rewind the clock a few years ago. I didn't start up my YouTube channel till I think 2015. But what got me hooked in to D&D was, you know, it's not like I ever stopped, but somewhere in maybe 2013 or 2014, I was playing at a neighborhood game. Did in the very first Dwarven Forge Kickstarter for the dungeon tiles. And he brought these to the game, and I was like, holy crap, that looks so cool. And he's like, yeah, and they're made out of dwarvenite. You could throw them at the floor and they won't break. And I was like, ah. So fast forward a little bit, and the city builder Kickstarter for Dwarven Forge starts off, and I was like, I lost my mind. I mean, Dave, I'm not a rich man, okay? But I pledged almost $1,000. And I know for some people that's nothing, but for me, that's a lot of money to spend, okay?
Yeah,
I pledged almost $1,000 for that Kickstarter. When my wife found out, I was certain that we were going to get divorced. I mean, I thought she was going to dump me like a lead rock in a lake.
Baby, dwarvenite. Do you understand? It's made of dwarvenite. We can throw it against the floor. It won't even break.
Boy, she lost her shit, I'll tell you. So, but this is what I told her. I said, look, some men hit their 40s. They have a midlife crisis. They cheat on their wives, or they buy a motorcycle, or they buy some hot rod car. You know, I'm a nerd. I've been playing this game all my life. It's a safe investment to invest in this because it's going to bring me happiness. I don't have expensive hobbies. I don't go golfing. I don't go out blowing thousands of dollars gambling. You know what I mean? Like I'm happy at home playing around a table with a bunch of buddies. That's my biggest expense is chipping into the beer and pizza fund. That's it. You know, so if I spend a boatload of money this one time after, you know, over 35 years of gaming, it'll last. It'll be a worthwhile investment. So I kind of talked her down from the precipice. You know, I was still a little worried she was going to murder me in the night, but anyway, it all worked out. But that, you know, and that was a worthwhile investment, but I realized I can't keep spending money on that stuff. So that's how I got into the crafting thing. I found DM Scotty's channel, and I'm like, dude, here's exactly what I need. A guy who doesn't want to spend a lot of money and just use cheap, free, or recycled materials and make cool shit for your table. That's what I want to do. And then from him, I got in the group, and I found all these other crafters. And, you know, my channel content has a ton of crafting things, and I'm not even really good. I'm not that, I mean, I copy a lot of other people's stuff because I want to learn how to do it, and it's useful to have on your table. So I make a lot of, you know, things that are reusable in different scenarios. But, you know, really, like, it's become a therapy. You know, it can be frustrating sometimes when you try to build something terrain-wise for your game and it doesn't work out. But I love going down in the basement and just, you know, getting the stuff out and just making something. And if it doesn't turn out, no big deal, you know. But it adds a lot to the table. It adds a lot to the gaming experience. The group that I've been running now for just about 2 years, almost every single game session we have terrain. Sometimes we, you know, reuse it, but I try to configure it in different ways, make it interesting. We have minis, and I just like that immersive part of it, you know?
Yeah, like going back to the doing this, my wife has always been okay with, like, she doesn't get Saturday nights very often because of gaming. But I was like,
Yeah.
hey, I could be doing this, or I could be at a strip club with my buddies. What would you rather be doing?
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
And you know, I have very few vices in life, and D&D is like one of them.
Yeah.
So you know, there's something to be said for that. I've tried to get her to play, and she's tried it, but it's just not her thing.
Same. My wife's never even, she won't try it. Like, I brought it up so many times, and she's like, no. She doesn't have any problem with it. She's like, you go ahead and do your thing. It's just not her cup of tea. So, and we've been together for 20 years. So I figured if she hasn't done it now, probably not going to happen. But I have gotten my sons into it. Both of them play, and I'm a proud dad. They're both really good players, and I think the older one, who's 11, is like this close to running the game. He doesn't have all the mechanics down, but his storytelling skills and his ideas are phenomenal.
Mechanics schmacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that is how my wife played. Like she played a game where we played with the kids.
Yeah.
So so she gave it a try. I think we played like maybe 2 or 3 sessions tops. And there was a couple go arounds because it took a couple of sessions. It took my son playing a few sessions to get into it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think people sometimes talk about how role-playing, what have role-playing games done to you? And I thought about making a documentary about it. I even kind of prepped some questions and people that I'd interview. But, sometimes you think about it, I think it's done a tremendous amount of things. I think if you asked, you or me or anybody else really, what have role-playing games done for you? I mean, brain development, just expanding your vocabulary, your ability to do quick math on the fly, writing, literacy, reading, your knowledge of history and other cultures. I mean, I've gotten all of that stuff and so much more from playing role-playing games, and the ability to step into a character and kind of envision what that's like. That's a valuable social skill for any job or career. It's empathy. It's basically the idea that you could understand what it's like to live in someone else's shoes. And I think that's another thing you could develop from role-playing. So it's a gift, man. I mean, it's a gift. It's a hobby. It's fun. And I love it. And I feel like we're in a renaissance, brother. I don't know about you, but everything that we were into as nerdy kids is like at the top. All the comic book movies and shows, Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, all the things are like hitting their peak, And I love it.
It's starting to feel a little bit like we won.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a blast. And going back to GenCon, that was my first GenCon. GenCon 50 was my first GenCon, which is crazy. I've been playing this game since '78. And that's the first one I went to, and it was a total blast. And the fact that museum, you went and saw that, right, in the Lucas Oil Stadium?
I did.
I told them they should do that every year, dude. They should have that every year. And I know it's a lot of money to bring all that stuff together, but how cool was that? Was there anything that stood out to you when you saw that like blew your mind, or that was, brought all the nostalgia back? What was the best part of that thing for you?
I just like the troll. Most of that stuff doesn't do anything for me. I'm not like a huge nostalgia person. So it was cool to see.
Did you see any of the old school strategy games that they were playing? Like Dawn Patrol okay. For me, that was cool because I've never seen a big scale convention kind of table like that set up, or the sand table. The sand table was awesome.
They had how they weighed that jousting and
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think about all the games that I know about but never played, and it was just cool kind of seeing that stuff in the museum and seeing it actively being played. It's kind of like if an advertisement from an old Dragon magazine could come to life. That's what I felt like I was sitting there watching.
It was definitely cool. I think it would be a cool thing for them to do every year. But I don't think I would go back. It doesn't seem like it'd be one of those things I would go back to and check out every year. It's like, I've seen this.
Right.
But I'm probably just a horrible human being because I feel like I'm kind of like with my family too. I'm like, I've seen you guys today. I'm good. I can go a day or two and I'm good. And then, then I'll start missing them. But
I'm that way with a lot of things. There are some shows that I like and then I'll never watch them again. Movies, same thing.
Oh yeah, I do that. Movies, books. I rarely revisit things. I enjoy them once and move on. And there's a bit of a saving grace to that from my childhood. Like all the things that I thought were really cool and I loved.
Yeah.
Everyone says the same thing when you go back to them. They're kind of like crap.
Well, like the D&D cartoon. So one of my friends posted a link to it because I guess it was the 30th anniversary or 35th anniversary of that cartoon. And I told him, I'm like, man, I tried to go back and watch it with my boys because I thought, they're younger. I thought they might like it. It was so cheesy. I'm like, it was cheesy back then.
they're spoiled because like they get cartoons on demand 24/7, and they're and the production values are so much better.
Right.
Like I tried doing that with Thundar the Barbarian.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like within 5 minutes, my kids were like, "You're killing me. Can we change this? This is horrible. This is awful." Like, what are you talking about? I had to wait all week to watch this show. You don't understand.
Well, I'm probably a little stricter with my boys than, I'm the youngest of 7, so I kind of got away with murder when I was growing up. I think my parents were just too tired to fight.
They're done.
But, by the time I was 11, like my oldest son, I mean, I was watching Conan the Barbarian, like, movies that were like R-rated. And
my parents were drug addicts and alcoholics, and we had home box. So like, Dragon Slayer and Sword and Sorcery, Excalibur. Yeah.
I mean, when people talk about movie inspiration, I'm like, dude, I was watching those in my formative years. Like I was in elementary school when I was still watching all those movies. And absolutely, they, I don't know that I'd necessarily rip them off scene for scene, but I definitely, had that stuff up in my head somewhere when I was DMing adventures, because you draw from all those cool things.
Yeah, all of my first booby sightings came from Homebox and Bad. So,
yeah, the animated Lord of the Rings, Ralph Bakshi's animated Lord of the Rings. I must have watched that so many times that the VHS tape like wore out. It literally lost control track and I couldn't watch it anymore. That's how many times we would watch it. But that, that was our youth, man. And I still draw from that stuff. It's, sometimes I see people try to run these campaigns and they make them overly complex. And sometimes I just want to be like, just keep it simple, dude. Just have fun. Like a decent dungeon crawl with a few challenges, so it's not all just hack and slash, can be just as fun as some really complex political thing. I mean, you mix it up, of course. I always try to make it, one thing after another, kind of try different things, but sometimes keeping it simple is good too.
Absolutely. I mean, different people are going to like different things. I mean, like the quest that my players have set for themselves in my one game is to build a bathhouse. So
that's awesome. They have to come up with the plumbing and everything for it.
They're tired. They're tired of having to go to taverns and have the water heat it for them.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. To get some engineering involved.
Yeah. And then one of them is hell bent on like having thieves' cant all throughout it with dirty limericks. Nice.
Hey, so not this very episode that launched today. I'm doing this series from the vault where I read Dragon magazines, old Dragon magazines on my channel.
Mm-hmm.
So not the one that I published this week today, I think, but the one that I'm going to publish late next week, I think either Thursday or Friday, is going to be a Dragon magazine where they actually have thieves' cant. And this was an insert that you could take out of the magazine. You remember this one?
I don't, but
it's awesome. I can't remember the exact issue. It's like 66 or.
Let's see.
But it's one of the older issues. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
This is like issue maybe 66, I want to say, but it had an insert, and you could take it out of the magazine and quarter fold it, and it was basically a little pocket dictionary translator for thieves' cant to English. So, I mean, I've had this magazine for years, 35 years probably. I think it came out in 82 or 83. So, and we used to use it, but we'd use it to name our characters. Like, so my friend would, he wanted his character to be Shadow Thief, which was Eskai Basim or Eski Basim. So, kind of make a cool character name, and it was thieves' cant. But, it was fun just as a prop. It was fun as a DM if you wanted to leave like a message scrawled on a wall. You have it on a piece of paper or a scroll, and you hand it over to the character, whoever the thief or rogue in the party was. And then they'd have to like pull out the book and decipher it, and the other players wouldn't know what was what. It was kind of a fun little prop or addition to the game. But some of that old stuff was cool like that. And they were thinking ahead, even back in the early days, they were thinking of ways to make your game a little more immersive and a little more, experiential.
So John confirms it is issue 66.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm doing that one late next week. So that's one of the newer kind of series that I've been planning on doing this for years. But you know, the thing with my channel and my content, I do video for a living. So doing video for fun for my channel, it's kind of the last priority in my life. You know, I got the job, I got the family, and all the things related to the family, and you know, so kind of doing content for my channels, it's hard. It's hard to keep up. It's hard to feed the beast. You know, that's one of the reasons why I've never monetized my content, is because I can't keep up. You know, so. But the Dragon Magazine things is something I can do because I've read them all, and I kind of reread it before we shoot the episode, and then it's basically just paging through and sharing the contents with people and talking about, you know, my opinions or my memories or recollections of whatever it might be. So it's kind of fun little trip down nostalgia lane.
I probably did not get a subscription to Dragon Magazine until probably like, it had to be around 98, right? It was close to when I got married, maybe like a year before or so. So I didn't get them too much later, and I don't even know at that point what number they would have been on.
Well, probably in the 200s. I mean, I got in 84 for my birthday. My parents bought me a 1-year subscription to Dragon Magazine, and I treasured those magazines. Like I kept them in envelopes and everything. But I also read them and used them at the table for references so much that some of them, the covers fell off. I mean, they're in bad shape. But it was a great. I mean, you know, I say this in the series of videos that I'm doing. Dragon Magazine was the web before there was an internet. It was the resource for nerds. Like every, you know, yeah, it was very focused on the TSR products and their product line, but they talked about other stuff. They had book reviews for fantasy and sci-fi books, and they had all this other cool content. And that's kind of why I started up the series, is just to share all these neat kind of old resources that they used to have. And you know, even some of the advertisements for games that were coming out, or for conventions, or, you know, for other accessories or products. You know, it's just kind of cool to look at what they had going on.
No, I totally get, and I miss it. Like I miss having that physical publication.
Yeah, yeah. You know, the internet is obviously the greatest resource, right? If you're running a game and you want to add visuals, you go to Google Images and search anything. And if it doesn't already exist, then you could take something and modify it in Photoshop, and boom, there you go. You know. But same thing with music, same thing with, you know, props. I mean, there's so much out there, but there's a difference, right, between having that concrete thing. I mean, it's the same reason why a tabletop game is best if you're all at the tabletop. Not to knock, you know, the Roll20 environment, you know, or any Fantasy Grounds or any of the online things. Like, you do what you got to do. If you want to play the game and nobody's around you, then you play, whether it's Skype or Google Hangouts or one of the online, you know, platforms. But man, I mean, there's nothing better than sitting around the table with your crew and rocking out, right?
The difference between like getting information from the internet and from a Dragon Magazine is the internet will tell me something I knew I wanted, or something I knew I needed to go look for. Yeah. But getting that Dragon Magazine every month would tell me about things I didn't even know I needed in my life.
Yes.
But I did. You know, so that was like, you get discovery.
Yeah.
You know, because you don't know what's going to come this month. And, you know, that was like the greatest thing about having that subscription and doing it. And, you know, even if there was an online, even though I guess they kind of have an online resource like that, it's just not quite the same.
No.
You know, I don't like reading on my phone. It's too small. I'm too old, I guess, or whatever. Yep. You know, I don't like reading on tablets as much.
Yeah.
There's just something about sprawling out with a magazine, you know, or taking it in a can with you, whatever you need to do.
Yeah. No, I've read and reread those magazines so many times, and only recently, on the rare occasion when I'm at a game store or a comic book store that carries back issues, and I see a Dragon Magazine and it's not part of my lineup, I'll buy it, you know, as long as it's reasonably priced. And half the time, it's just, you know, a nostalgia trip, but sometimes you find some really cool stuff that you could adapt from earlier editions of games and bring it into whatever you're doing. So
well, the thing about 5th edition, it is like the easiest, it's one of the easiest editions to convert into.
yeah.
So that part is really nice. You know, going back to Gen Con, how many kids did you bring with you?
So I had myself and my staff technician guy, and then 2 students. So it was a very small crew.
Okay.
I think if we had more advance notice, I mean, this whole thing came together weeks before Gen Con. It was like end of July is when they reached out to me. So we didn't have a lot of time to plan. But if it were going to be a repeat for next year, I would definitely look into scheduling more productions and having a bigger crew. So like the live stream that you were in with Maze Arcana, relatively speaking, that was a small shoot. I mean, they only had 3 cameras.
Right.
So like we do 6 camera shoots like 3 days a week over here. So for my kids, doing a big production's nothing. And if you're going to set it all up, you might as well do 6 cameras instead of 3. But that's what I would do. I would bring more kids, bigger crew, more cameras, and really showcase a game and get into the nitty gritty.
You think you guys are going to be able to do that again?
I hope so. But the problem with Gen Con, and which is one of the reasons why I never attended on a personal level, the problem with Gen Con is that it's always the weekend before school starts over here.
Yeah.
And for me to go, I would have to like drive in on a Friday night, which would suck because the traffic from Chicago to Indianapolis on a Friday is horrific because everybody's leaving Chicago to go to like their lake house in Indiana or Michigan. It's a nightmare. So that's the drag. And getting out of those days, those are teacher work days. So I don't know if the school would let me do it again. I think there's a lot of value in it for the students, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I was going to follow up with, did any of those students get converted to gamers? But there's only 2 of them, so.
Well, I'll tell you what, after they talked to Rudy and Satine and they were hanging out with them for a while, I think they really had a different perspective, So they said that they would be.
I can imagine teenage boys meeting Satine Phoenix playing D&D.
Yeah, I think that opened their eyes. So, but they said like, hey, we should do like an epic game in the studio. So we're talking about doing something where I would be the DM and then we'd have like 4 or 5 or 6 students who've never played the game before sitting down for the first time to play some 5th edition. So that might be coming soon. We'll see.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. And I mean, I've thought about doing this. Like I said, there are teachers here at LT who used to play D&D, and I thought, how cool would it be to kind of do a celebrity game session where the teachers sit in instead of the students and they play like a one-shot. I think it'd be cool for the students to see that side of the teachers being creative and thinking and working as a team to get through this adventure.
Maybe it might still feel like work. I don't know.
Yeah.
You still have to monitor language and stuff.
Yeah.
What did Miss Clark just say?
Yeah, exactly.
Some of those old D&D behaviors start coming out. Next day, everyone's getting pink slips.
Yeah, they just turn into a pack of murder hobos.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. There's a lot of potential, and the cool thing is that like I said, I'm at a school where there's a lot of creative kids, a lot of kids who want to try different things, and it's a good opportunity for us to break out of the mold. I mean, we do a ton of stuff here. We do sports and music and talk shows and news and films, but doing gaming thing is kind of a new thing on the production end. So it's a neat opportunity for them.
Cool, man. It's definitely different than when I was in school. That's for sure. Like kids are just getting so many more opportunities to do stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a small but growing club where every Friday night they can go hang out at the corral and play board games, tabletop games, card games. And, it's like their geek hangout. That's where they have a spot to go, and it's kind of a cool thing because those aren't the kids who are going to go see the football game, you know, and they're not the kids who are going to go to a party. They're the kids who want to be able to hang out, and you know, it'd be hard to get 30 kids to hang out at one house, but at this big space that the school runs, they're safe. They got plenty of room, plenty of tables. There's a concession stand. They can order pizzas, you know. So it's a real cool thing. Real cool.
Even over the summer, my son is part of the engineering program at his high school. And during the summer, they have to do stuff, and they do it in conjunction with Rowan University. So, like, they got the, you know, part of that was playing in the virtual with their virtual reality room,
awesome.
and their augmented reality room. So they got to do cool stuff like that. Where, like, when I think about my high school experience, there was nothing like that.
Yeah.
I might actually went. Had there been more going on.
Well, I think that's the key, though. That's the key with all these kids nowadays. Like, they're a generation where a lot of them don't get into high school because they feel like they can learn everything online, and there's some truth to that. You know, you kind of have to hook them. You have to have them embrace education, you know, and that's, I mean, on my end, that's why I try to do cool, different stuff like GenCon, you know, or right after GenCon, we drove down to Southern Illinois and we shot the solar eclipse like that. You know, that's not something that happens all the time. And it was kind of a cool, fun experience. So
nice. So then, so all that stuff you guys did, does that then go on the TV station for the school?
Some of it, yeah, some of it doesn't. The stuff that I cut that shows kind of more of the production end, I've featured there, but like the Geek and Sundry party, not really.
Well, no, that's not, you know,
I mean, it's appropriate. There was nothing bad about it. There, you know, the whole thing was appropriate. It's just more like what's actually, you know, it's the balance between like educational and entertainment, you know?
Okay. Can't have them having too much fun. Wait a minute, you mean the Dreamstream game I was in is not educational? What if those kids get stuck in the Mournlands? What are they going to do?
Exactly. I wish I had more footage, and this is, you know, thinking again about like future, whether it's GaryCon or GenCon or some other con. I would love to have the ability to do like a blown out, totally highly produced game. And I'm talking, you know, you probably saw the Stream of Annihilation series that Geek and Sundry did, where they had that whole set and the lighting and the sound and the, you know, the props. That's the kind of level of stuff that I'd love to be able to do. Oh, was it D&D sponsored it, or was it? I thought it was.
Did it?
Okay, they did it. All right. Well, I mean, and there you go. You know, that was kind of special, a special mini series featuring different gaming groups playing in that amazing location. I'd love to be able to do that like all the time. And I think people would be shocked at how, if you have the right equipment, it's not that hard to do. You know, it takes some time to set up all the lights and to set, you know, to have the set.
Well, Emerald Blades, right? Are you shooting that?
Yeah. Yeah. So Emerald Blades is a game that Brian Thomas, who's the Initiative Coffee guy, that he's been running for 5 years. And what we've put up online are the final chapters. It's basically the final 4 parts of this campaign. And actually the last one goes live this week. And that has been an experience. You could tell from the first episodes, the first 2 episodes, to this third one now that's already online on the Initiative Coffee Company YouTube page, how much of a difference in our production quality there is. I mean, it's tremendously different. And part of that is the lighting design, which was done by Paul Morehouse. He's one of the 2 students who went to GenCon. And then the other part is the fact that we're using that Blackmagic switcher, which is Sean Robinson's, who also went to GenCon. So we're kind of employing all these things that we learned at GenCon to make a better game stream. And ultimately, all that stuff that's Brian's doing with Initiative Coffee Company is going to tie into our Nerd Rave, our big convention in February. So it's just, you know what, things work out for a reason. Everybody that we met was cool. All the experiences that we had was cool. We take those ideas that we saw and we incorporate them and use them to make new things. And it's all good. It's good entertainment. It's good education. It's the right mix of all of it.
Nice. It's an awesome thing you're doing over there. And,
Thanks,
and
man.
you're lucky to have a teacher that isn't just going in and punching the clock and wants to, you know, create these cool experiences and really pull them into that field. Because what did you do before you taught? Like, you worked in that field.
Yeah, so I worked out of college. I worked in the Chicago film industry for a few years, and Chicago is mostly a commercial town, or at least in the '90s. You know, it's a big advertising agency town. So most of my bread and butter was commercial work, music videos, corporate videos, that kind of stuff. And I did that for a few years, but then I wanted something with a little more stability. So I kind of got into the television side of things. I worked for Comcast. Most of what we did was studio productions, talk shows, but we also did some news. We did some sports, kind of all around everything. So that's where I honed my studio and my truck production experiences. When I decided to go back to school to be a teacher, I never in my wildest dreams thought that I would be doing media, because there just aren't that many schools with media programs. So I went back to get my degree in English because I had a minor in it, and I finished up that, and I was looking for jobs. My wife was, you know, just had our first baby, and like I was broke and didn't have a job. And then I heard through the grapevine that the guy at my old high school who taught the video program was retiring. So I went in, I talked to him, and I said, hey, what are you looking for? And they said, we're looking for somebody who is an English teacher, because this video program is under the umbrella of language arts. Bing. We're looking for somebody who knows how to manage a TV station, because we have our own cable station on Comcast and AT&T. Bing. Somebody knows how to manage a TV studio, somebody who knows how to program a cable channel, and maybe, just maybe, somebody who knows how to run a TV production truck. So that's what I mean by blessed, fortunate, and lucky all in the same turn, man. Because that I told them flat out, I go, I'm the only guy in the state that has all 5 of those qualifications. And I've been here for 12 years now, and it's awesome. I'm like the coach who gets to suit up and still go play the game. Like, I'm on the productions with the kids, you know, not all of them, because then I'd be working like 80 hours a week. But, you know, I'm on the productions with the kids. I work crew still. We'll do, you know, I pull cables. I get dirty. Run camera, run sound, graphics, I'll direct, whatever needs to be done. But I like my kids to be able to have the experience doing it. And they're bosses, man. I mean, the 2 boys that you know, you met at GenCon are ballers. Like, Paul's done over 300 truck shoots. Sean's done a couple hundred. They both can shoot, light, do sound, edit, everything. So, and not all of my kids are like that. I get a lot of kids who just kind of like to do video for fun, and that's cool too. I'm just lucky. I'm lucky to be here. I'm lucky to have a good program, and to, like you said, to be able to do fun stuff with the kids. That's my passion, man. I mean, I love it.
So you guys have your own truck?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. I mean, now don't get me wrong. I'm not going to bite the hand that feeds us here in a way, but the Black Magic guys are awesome. But I'm new to using their equipment. So all that setup for Rudy and Satine's thing for the Maze Arcana live stream, it took a lot longer because we've never used their stuff before. That was our first shoot with their stuff. And obviously, as you know, it worked out pretty well. Yeah. So the fact that we could roll up and do a production with equipment we've never used before is pretty baller by itself. Hey, go next door and tell my study hall class to behave.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
I'm sending Sean to just go babysit my study hall class. I got to finish up in a couple minutes. But I'll tell you what, if we rolled up with our truck, that would have been a hella different production. Just go tell them that I'll be right there. I mean, we could do 8 cameras on our truck, and we use it probably 3 times a week. It's basically a mobile studio. There's a $40,000 switcher on it, graphic system, sound, just the whole 9 yards. In fact, later today, we're going to be doing the big home football game, streaming it live on LTTV online on YouTube. And that'll be a big matchup. And we're testing out some new cameras there. So yeah, that's what I do, man. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Love the program, and it's all hands-on. That's the best way kids learn, is all hands-on.
Nice. Now, I'm going to let you go because I know you have to go back, and you're actually like in the middle of your work day. I appreciate you coming on. Hey, guys, if you want to do the roll call, let's bust out the roll call. I'm gonna send Bill out of here. Thanks for coming on. Definitely open invitation. Come back whenever you want.
Thanks, brother. It's good to see you. GenCon was a blast. I was telling you before we started the stream, I had the GenCon blues. I missed you and Cody and Juice and Michael and everybody and Satine and Rudy. It was just a magical time. So I'm hoping
you gotta come back with Packs Unplugged, man.
Hey, I'm gonna try to hit as much as I can. So we'll see what the schedule and the school year allows. But it was good meeting you, and thanks for having me on. And hope to be back again.
Sounds good, man. Take care, Bill.
Take care,
guys, if you happen to be in Seattle, Washington, there is the Geek Girl Con going on, and Nerdarchy Nubs will be out and about, hanging out there as Nerdarchy Press. So he's going to be. You can expect some articles in the near future. I don't know if he's going to capture any video or not, but he'll be out there. If you see him, go give him a hug, say hi, high five him, tackle him if you want. But I think Nerdarchy Nubs is a big guy, so good luck with that. But I'm going to jump into the roll call here. We got Todd from Dallas, Evil Silly Putties in Minnesota, of course, Lincoln from Sweden once again. Robert is in Washington, D.C., Uncle Peter's in Toronto. And Riggins. We've got Red Jackal in Florida. John is in Jacksonville. Luxembourg with Jeff Van Gogh. Sean is in Santa Barbara, California. Alexandra is in Rhode Island. John said welcome. But we've got AJ in Lopez Island, Washington. We've got Virgilio in Utah. Comic Book University, Unlimited Class Wrestling Federation with Ben Grimm. That was one of my favorite things. We actually used to play Marvel Phase Rip and just do the wrestling part. We had like made up rules and everything to go along with it. We got Brian F in New York City. We got Kevin in Boston. We got Frigginator in Washington. So guys, I want to thank everyone for hanging out with us today. Greatly appreciate it. I knew Bill had a limited amount of time, although I think we kept him longer than he was supposed to be on here. So I just saved the roll call towards the end. And again, if you're in Seattle area and if you want to go out to the Geek Girl Con, and why wouldn't you, go look for Nerdarchy Nubs, tell them I sent you. So until next time, guys, you have a great day and stay nerdy.